Hi friends, and welcome to another video. Today I am bringing you another thriller horror reviews, except from this time it is just thrillers. No horrors have been read, so I hope that you enjoy these. I do try to keep them as spoiler free as possible. It is mostly just synopsis and me telling you about my vibes and just kind of talking through my ratings and why I gave them the ratings that I did. So I do try and keep these as spoiler free as possible. And the first book I have here is The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I I have fell victim to Frida McFadden, so I understand that her books aren't the most unique and best told stories ever, but they are fun. I think Frida McFadden to me is an author that kind of is like chocolate, great at the time, but not sustainable. And I say that because even though I really enjoy her work and some books I've really enjoyed, maybe after a minute of pondering and thinking, I always lower my rating because, again, it's great in the moment, and a couple of days later, I'm not sustained anymore, so it's not the best. I hope this makes sense. So, in The Boyfriend, we follow Sydney Shaw, who is ready to look for love, and she is on dating apps. She's ready to get out there, like, find her one person, and she does that, and he's charming and funny. He's a doctor. She is very happy. But the only thing that's kind of raining on her happiness parade is that women have been getting killed, and she has been very close to this. So, paranoia and trust starts to come into play as she moves forward in her relationship with this oh so handsome and charming man. Now, I did enjoy this. I gave it a 3.75. It was fun. As I said, I read this really quick. I read this the day it released because it was available on Kindle Unlimited. It was really fun, and I feel like that is the way with Frida McFadden's work all the time, is that I get excited to read them, I enjoy them, and I forget them. So I did enjoy this one. The reason that I didn't rate this so highly is because Tom is the guy that she starts seeing, the charming handsome doctor, and we got his POVs as a child, right? And then we get Sydney's POVs as an adult in a relationship with him. I enjoyed Tom's childhood POVs more than the present day POVs. And I think that's why it kind of affected my enjoyment of this story, because when you have something like dual timelines and dual POVs and you like one over the other, you kind of struggle because some chapters I was just waiting to get back to Tom's point of view and Tom's timeline because it just was better. And I think that it kind of impacted the story a bit because I was getting slogged down in the present because it wasn't going as fast as the um the past tense chapters. So I think this story is fun. If you're looking for something that is fast and quick and easy to read, then that goes for all Frida McFadden's books, specifically this one too. Like, it's fun, it's fast, but I do think if you enjoy one point of view or one timeline over the other, then it will impact your enjoyment of this story. And the twist, the reveal, was fine. I didn't guess it. I didn't like it wasn't predictable to me, even though it probably should have been. But McFadden does this thing where she's really good at showing you this big shiny thing over here, showing you this big shiny thing over here, to then pinpoint this little, matte silver lining here. And I think she does that really well, to the point of you kind of stop looking for clues because you're just like, McFadden's going to do what she's going to do, and I'm just along for the ride. That's also why I enjoy this book. That's why I enjoy her work, because I am just in it for the fun and the ride, and my expectations are very, very middle of the road. I go in expecting just something fun, fast paced, and if she surprises me, great. If she disappoints me, I don't really care. I had a good time. So if you're looking for something that is very what's the word? I would say this leans more mystery for McFadden. It is still a thriller, definitely under the thriller category, but this is one of those where it's more mysterious than the other books that I've read from her, and you keep going because you want to know answers. The next book I have to talk about is actually a DNF. I didn't know if I was going to put this on this list because I don't really talk about books that I don't finish often, but I thought, well, I gave this a go, and me telling you why I DNF'd something is just as adequate as me telling you a review of something that I read. So this is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose, and this had so much promise. You follow three siblings that go back to their childhood home because their mum passed away, and they find this tape that has the dead girl from, well, the missing girl. So a child went missing in their childhood, and when they go back to this house, they find this video of their mum and dad standing over her dead body. So instantly you're like, oh my god, this child's been missing. Did their mum and dad have something to do with it? Like, what is happening? And this had such big promise. It was just so dang slow. This was like 290 pages, and I DNF'd this at 80%. I didn't care. I didn't care, and I predicted it because I went on and I read reviews after I decided to DNF, and I predicted it. There is certain things in this story that just began to piss me off. One, the drug addiction representation just fell off. There was parts that were very uncomfortable because the youngest sibling, no, the middle child, sorry, is a drug addict, right? And she's been trying to get clean and she's been struggling with this. But like when your siblings are like calling you names and essentially just being like, you're junkie, it gets uncomfortable. And I understand that this happens, and I understand that this is, it was problematic. It was a problematic way to represent drug addiction, especially within this story, because it's a very, peculiar situation. You have what could potentially be life destroying information about your parents, and you just want to sit and like bad call your sister. It didn't make any sense to me. And then instantly, the youngest, Michael, the only brother, I didn't like him from like chapter 2. He was the one that got out. He was the one that was successful. He had money. He liked to throw money at things. Like, he was a character that I instantly was just like, no, I don't like you. And I think that ruined this book for me because none of the characters were likable, even the eldest. And they fell into very stereotypical tropes of be like siblings. So the eldest was caring and loving and nurturing and took care of things. The middle child was a drug addict seeking attention, and the youngest was babied, spoiled, and a brat. So they fell into this very tropey, very like cliched sibling roles, and it kind of made for the story to become predictable. And even though I didn't read the last 20%, I did predict what happened because instantly in like chapter 3 or 4 I was like, yep, I know what's going on here. Because let's be honest, there's only certain things parents will do. Like, if your parents are covering up a murder, there's only a few things that will make your parents do that, right? And it was trying to lean in one way into the story where you start thinking the obvious route to then try and blindside you with this other obvious route. I didn't have time to finish this, unfortunately. I wasn't having a good time. I don't know how other people felt about this book because it seems to be very mixed on the reviews that I read. Not one I would recommend, unfortunately, just not one that I thought was worth finishing. So that was a letdown. And I'm kind of interested to see if this is just a one-off from this author that didn't work for me, or if this author is just not going to work for me. So maybe I will put her on my list to retry, just to find out if it's the author or the story that didn't work. A book that did really work was Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. I loved this. I gave this a 4.5 and I cried a little bit, so maybe it should be a 5, but I'm sticking with the 4.5. Just because in the middle it kind of felt like it slowed down a little bit too much. So in this, you follow 3 foster sisters, Alicia, Jessica, and Nora. All 3 of these girls are put into the care of Miss Fairchild at Wild Meadows. They all come there in different circumstances. So you have Jessica, who came there when she was younger. She had a lot of time with Miss Fairchild. It seemed like the perfect foster place for her. And then you have Nora, who had been through the system, had seen things that no child should be able to see or speak about. And she then comes in. And then you have Alicia, who loses her grandma, and she then joins the trio. And in this book, you follow them now in present day, because there has been a body found under Wild Meadows, and they're all called in for the investigation to figure out like whose body this is, who does it belong to, and what happened to them. But then you also follow the past, and you follow all 3 girls during their time at Wild Meadows and their time with Miss Fairchild. And this was touching and devastating. It was so powerful and so heavy of a thriller. It is a psychological thriller, and it also kind of reads a little litfic at times. It was just, you follow these women as they have experienced trauma and how they've grown, and like how trauma stays with you and how you heal from it and what you need to do to move forward from it. And Hepworth writes amazing characters, absolutely amazing. The 3 sisters, you didn't even need the title to know what sisters POV you were reading from, because they were so unique, because their voices were so unique. And that, I love that. I love when a character really like sticks with you, and all 3 of these women did. I do think the middle part, it kind of stumbled a little bit on pacing, just because I read like the first 150 pages so fast, and then the next 100 pages just dragged, and then I read the rest really quick. It was just, I feel like there was a little bit of a pacing issue that just didn't, it didn't feel like we were getting anywhere for the longest time, even though it wasn't actually that long. That's my only gripe with the story, was in the middle, the pacing felt a little bit slow. But everything else was fabulous. If you're looking for a found family, mystery, a story about trauma and childhood trauma and growing up and what that does, the domino effect and the healing from all that, this story has it. Like, it was brilliant. That's all I can say. It was absolutely brilliant. And I will be picking more up from this author, because this is now my 2nd book from this author. I think it was The Good Sister that I read. Was it The Soulmate? I think I read The Soulmate last year for the Goodreads choice. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Darling Girls, but I think I will continuously read this author, because nothing has been below a 3.5. Bear in mind, I've only read 2 books, but I'm excited to pick up more from this author. The final book I have to talk about today is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I've picked this up because I have made a list of the Goodreads Choice Awards nominations I think are going to be in the mystery thriller category. And this was, what I done was I made the list, and I wanted to read the ones that I had interest in, regardless if they're part of the awards or not. And this was one of them. Specifically because there's a podcast element, and if you don't know, I'm a sucker for a podcast element. I think it brings something to the story. So in this, you follow Lucy, and Lucy is blamed for killing her best friend, Savvy. They were thick as thieves. So they grew up in the same small town, but they didn't run in the same circles in their childhood. But then later on in life, Lucy returns to her small town where Savvy also returns to. And Lucy has married and is settling down. Beautiful house, beautiful husband. Savvy is still trying to figure out where she wants her life to be. And they form this bond, this new friendship. And then one day, Savvy is found dead and Lucy is found wandering the streets with what looks like defensive marks. So enter Ben, a well-meaning podcast presenter who wants to learn the truth about what happened to Savvy. So in this, you get, that's my dog. You get the story of Lucy and how she's dealing with this. After she was accused, she moved away. Now she's back because of this podcast. And her gran, who is my favourite character in this whole story. Lucy's grandma is like such a vibe. And if I'm not her when I grow up, I'm going to be pissed because I will feel cheated. She's just living her best life. And she wants justice for Savvy and also for Lucy, because obviously she doesn't think her grandchild had anything to do with killing her best friend. So she kind of hoodwinks Lucy to come back to town, and that in turn makes her start this podcast that is looking for answers. I loved this. I loved the podcast element for one. I loved the characters, but Lucy's grandma is just the best character in this whole story, and I implore you to read this and tell me if you agree in the comments, because I love her. And I think the thing, so I gave this a 4.5. Did I? Maybe I gave it a 5. Okay, no, I gave it a 5. I gave this a 5-star. And I was kind of toggling between a 4.5 to a 5, right? 4.5, 4.75, 5. Because there is a little bit of a romance plotline that I didn't really think needed to be in this story. It was fine. It didn't annoy me or cause any real issue. I just think it could have been left out. I didn't think it was necessary, even though I understand why it was slipped in there. So that kind of was like, could have done without the romance. And I wish that we had just a little bit more time on the reveals for Lucy, because there was a lot of things brought to light for Lucy in this story, and I just wanted more of an emphasis on, I feel like if there was more emphasis on this one specific situation, it would have caused the reader to feel more disjointed in what they thought. Because I feel like in this you fall on one camp. You fall on Lucy done it or Lucy didn't do it. And once you find out what camp you fall in on, the evidence and everything that is revealed starts taking on a new meaning. But for example, if you fell into the Lucy done it camp, that specific information that I wanted to be explored more may have made you think, no, like, I'm not in that camp anymore, and vice versa with the same camp. So I just think there could have been more nuance to the conversation in the story if this one thing was built on more. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I end up going with a 5-star rating because I have, it's been a while since I've had a thriller that has really hot for me, and this is one of them. Same with Darling Girls. So I got like 2 in a row. I got like The Boyfriend, which was a 3.75. Then I had Home Where the Bodies Were, which was a DNF. And then I had Listen for the Lie 5 and Darling Girls 4.5. So I had like 2 really good ones in a row, which I'm really happy about. If you're looking for something that has the podcast element, that has a real big mystery at the center, that follows, a small town that is just like ravenous with gossip, and just the rumor mill spreads so far and wide in this story, and it really comes down to the podcast as the center element, and I just really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. So those are the 4 thrillers that I've read recently. I would recommend Darling Girls and Listen for the Lie. I would not recommend Home Is Where the Bodies Are because I DNF'd that. The Boyfriend, I think I would recommend if you've read Freida McFadden and enjoyed her work in the past. But I also know there's a lot of people that don't like McFadden's work. So I feel like McFadden is one where I'm like, I recommend it if you want to read it. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was. If you think you can enjoy it for what it was, then I recommend. If you're not a fan of Frida McFadden and don't want to read her work, then I don't recommend it. But I do recommend these other two that I think you will enjoy. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so very much for watching. Remember to stay safe, happy and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye.